to my people who may not understand, and I speak to all of us, overclass, underclass, overclass, underclass, overskilled, underskilled, to all of my people, American descendants of slavery, to my people. This is what you do when you are part of a family or a group. First, you reckon with your own family and your own people. Even in your household, you pay the bills, you get things straightened out so everybody's comfortable. You make sure people are reciprocating loyalty amongst each other. This is what you do. And this is what we have been estranged to in terms of community. So now we do it. And I think that a lot of us are kind of new to this because we haven't been forced to do that. We were scattered around the country and thinking that we were part of this and that group, and other people are in a unit, and we not knowing that because of just how we are and how we have been anchored as a black people. So we kind of ate the failure and lost the idea of community, or never had it, and so to speak, because we know the history of Dr. King's regime and all of these things where we were forced to be a unit in family because we all suffered the same way. But now that we have degenerates and people who are overclass and some people who are pretty much overskilled, then black people feel that they have been better than the other and so forth. And this is basically a crisis due to the fact that you have no protection in terms of group, or other groups are protecting you, because now you're the only person who's been divided in that sense. So this is a new thing, and we become that throughout some people gaining some type of wealth and so forth, or gaining some type of riches, because neither one of us wealthy. In terms of a country, wealth is a team sport, and we have been pretty much locked out of wealth. We don't have no anchor in wealth in this country. But a lot of people, I say rich black people exchange among wealth. They're not wealthy. If you look at Meek Mill, what happened? Okay, he's rich. Okay, so you look at people who are successful, but that does not mean that they're wealthy in terms of a country, or a group, or system, or society. So what happens to Oprah? What happens to Bill Cosby? See, we got to understand some of those who feel that you have got it made, and you can come out and basically buffoon and say what your other brothers and sisters deserve and what they don't, because you have been allowed to make money doing something, does not mean that you are classified as an important people in terms of a unit. So I think we have to understand what science is. And a lot of us know, but then a lot of us don't. And when I speak, I usually try to speak to the Pookies and the Ray Rays, because I had a program where that's what I was doing in terms of finding them self-sufficiency and so forth. And it executed. Had about 25 boys in the program. And so it executed. So I usually speak to that, because what it is that some people need this more than others. And we all need it just alike. Pretty much, if you zero into it and see it, we all have been a victim of our circumstance and what's going on of us in the society. But the science, we got to be careful and understand what a science is. And a lot of our people don't know what a science is. They think they do, and they say they do, and then again, they really don't. We are using this strategy in terms of science. It's not violent. It's not to go fight nobody. The black agenda is not violent. It's not to be fighting. We are science. We have engineered and been a part of engineering a system that even if you go in the courtroom as an attorney, you can argue a case. And by your dialogue and your science of which how you exchange, you can win a case even if the person is guilty of the crime. This is the system that's been created. Your expertise in this in the science of exchange is very powerful. And we have to understand, you don't have to go out fighting and be angry. But what you do keep warrior status, and you don't let anyone harm your family, and you do set up in terms of protecting yourself throughout other people's intent. If you're in a house and you got license to carry, and somebody breaking your house, then they just get hurt. You have to get rid of them. People don't get to break in your house and harm your family or kill you. That's not what I'm saying. What I do understand, though, is our intent in this and what we're doing is to be strategic in the science and in the laws. And that's what we need our other people to know. And it's not just in the laws, but it's also in the science of how we carry ourselves and how we pay attention. We have not did politics. Black people, we just kind of like just followed the idea of things, and people use that, and we become docile because we were affected and we were on the bottom cast in the country throughout slavery and Jim Crow, and then all the fights of civil rights, and then the unprotected class that's not been upheld. We have to remember, we have to use our science and come before this with a strategy and to aim, to the data. And we have to pull things apart because there are things that are put in place that we have not even yet been able to receive that is due to us. And that is inheritance. That is justice claims. But we can't strategically pull it apart and be successful if we're not a unit, if we're not a group, if we're not together. And this is what I mean. So in terms of going forward, guys, understand that the first thing I would do is protect each other in your home and understand words. And let's, as a group, not go for anything like we did before, black and brown collation and all things like that. We don't agree to these things until we understand how it affects us. Let's stop agreeing to stuff we don't know about in terms of government and dignitarians pushing forth. And then we be the ones affected and other people are gaining capital and being protected. And they're not even anchored in the history of our nation. We have to understand words, and we have to be careful to follow and lead in hierarchy and respect the people that are in position in these places. If somebody has a political science degree and they understand and they have our best interests at heart in terms of leadership, then we follow the idea of that. We reckon with each other and we agree. If somebody understands, it can be solely down to the point if somebody understands how to design a home, then we have to listen to the designer according to how we want the home to look. But if somebody understands the financial department and how to pay for it and how to get the land and the laws, we have to listen to the person that's the financial expert. So this is what we have to respect in terms of group. We have to respect each other for where we exist, even in an intellectual sense, in an intellectual presence. So Tone Talk and Yvette Cornell, Tone Talks as a lawyer. We have to respect the idea that he understands, and he also been doing the advocacy. So he's not only a lawyer, but he's a revolutionist. Tone Talks is also a historian, from my assessment, and he's a mathematician. He counts very well, and he understands number. So due to the fact that the proof is in the pudding, and we see it being effective from him, we have to pay attention and respect who he is, and those who have gained constituency with that can also do the job, get on board, and then we move strategically. Yvette Cornell is a political science. She understands politicians. She is there to oversee government issues in terms of it being something legal and not legal, and understand the position and the strategy of government and politics and its exchange. And then we have people who can do the economics. We have people that are all in the community in places where we did not take into account for. Like we have people with the momentum of family mother wit. We have ministers. We have all kinds of people with gifts. And so therefore the beauty of everybody's position comes together. And therefore we be okay. Now we're going to get people who are not understanding and who don't know and who's going to say this. And this is the strategy. We have to pull that apart and we have to expose. This is transparent government. We're doing transparent government. And when you make something transparent, that means everybody can see clean through it and all the ins and outs about it. So as we unpack these attempts to try to keep us in a feudalism, we pull it apart and we point it out, and then we expose it, and it becomes non-relevant. It becomes, we become unreceptive to it, as we should be. We pull apart the immorality of overseers that have been using something that we have found out and that we understand quite well. They have been using something that's against people and against an important people. So this is transparent government. It's a science more so than a fight. somebody's wanting to fight. And a lot of people have been projecting that image or tried to project that image on ADOS and the black agenda. That's not what this is. You don't get to harm anybody. You don't get to harm us because you don't like what we're doing. And I don't see why would you even want to go there. We just got a lot of insane people who have been raised up with an iota. And an iota, that means that they pretty much against you for whatever you do. And and we have to take into account that a lot of people have been raised like that. But they have to, and we have to understand, and they also have to understand. And doing transport government makes them understand. You put away the bag that you're holding with all this toxic. It belongs in toxic. It doesn't belong any good. You don't put it on the shelf and shine it up. It's not to keep. You throw it away and you get what you are supposed to keep, and those are the tangibles that we are looking into right now. Our reparations and our inheritance and our respect. So we understand, and we have to talk to white America. We have to talk to allies. We have to be with allies. We have to be on the same agenda. We don't need people to like you. We need people to do business with. When you're doing business, and that's why I shout out to Black Truth. I understand and I listen to him very much. And all my people. Because we are a group. Everybody has something that need to be sharpened, but that's good. That's the importance of life. That's a reason for living. That's called inspiration. Another reason for living. You're being inspired to something. Even on the high level. In terms of hierarchy. And that's great. That's all good stuff. Doesn't mean you're not a leader. But you get to bring forth what you know, and you get to bring forth and expound and shed light on something for the greater good in terms of leadership. And it anchors. And it lives and it sprouts. It's a root. You plant it. It's a seed. And it becomes something valuable. And seed turns into crop. And then you pick the crop when it's harvest time. So we look to explain, we look to furthermore to come forth for the right reasons and for the right things. And we have to understand, we do look into basically allies and people who are, and we have to let white America know it. If there's some white America listening or another group, we have to let you know reparations and being corrected for us is not to harm you. It's to correct us. We don't need people taking this personal and not understanding what's going on because they have an iota or they have listened to somebody before us. We had to deal with the iota of people who were before us, which were unfortunate because we were in an inhumane situation. So there were people that were saying stuff and promoting stuff to their children that was very unfortunate about my group and about our people. And those were the slave descendants and many other people. And other groups need to understand. And a lot of folks don't know what racism is and where it comes from. Racism is something, it's not about necessarily me and you in our conversation and you being disdain or prejudice about me or my group. Racism is something which you can practice according to how you were anchored. That's my definition of it because I study. Racism is a group which have won a race, and the word race came from when the slaves were in different lands, and basically the United States, the Americans won because they had more money and more wealth throughout slavery. And then when they considered themselves to be a person who won the race, they used the word racism. So racism is something which you can practice according to how you were anchored against the people who have been constituted as losers, or somebody who has lost the race. So it has a little bit to do with just me and your conversation. It's a system, a society of things, and an anchor. So we got to know what things are. And just because, you have something to say does not mean, and we have to understand, most people living now did not cause slavery. They didn't cause it. They didn't make the law. They didn't start slavery. And basically, neither one of us was out in the field working, but we ate the failure of it due to us being pushed back throughout having been a descendant of that, which is unfortunate, and that's chattel slavery. So people are around saying, well, I didn't have any slaves. I didn't do this and I didn't do that. But you are partaking in the exchange, in the atmosphere which you were left. And that's before us, the ideology of people that were inhumane and heinous. And those, unfortunately, were your ancestors if you are the descendants of slave traders. And because you are that group, that makes you that. That's just almost like somebody leaving a house to you in some land. And you look at it and it's got trash all over it. And you don't want to clean it up because you say, I didn't do this, but it was left to you. It was willed to you. And now it's your property. And if you don't keep cleaning it up, it's just going to look like this. It's going to stink. It's going to be around. It's not going to be pleasant or inviting until you take ownership of the situation, because now it's your property. Now it's your due diligence. Now it's time for you to use a respect and an integrity overseeing a situation that was willed to you. And this is what generational wealth has done in terms of it not correcting us. We never received our tangibles in 40 acres and a mule. We never received these things that we were able to exchange and have a thriving and a successful community. And when we did it our own, it was destroyed by militant force. These are the people that were before you, white America. So you have to understand that. And if you uphold this, then you're acting in the same way which a heinous ancestor, inhumane exchange, and it's unacceptable, and it doesn't continue. This is a free country. We have laws, and you have to uphold the law. In terms of government, there are plenty facilities in the empire that is responsible for slavery and the wealth, insuring slaves, Chase Bank, Wells Fargo, and they gave other people like the Hispanics $145 billion in loans because they felt they had an agenda, but never corrected those that were affected and those who have been the sole provider of the wealth. And they got bailouts and things like that from our government, and we are taxpayers. And we have not been corrected in terms of our history and have been eating the failure of and suffering in those spaces. That's very unacceptable. And you have to know, as any of descendant, my descendants were, my ancestors were slaves. They were in captivity. So I'm a descendant of chattel slavery in the country. So you are a descendant of slave traders. Or maybe you are from somewhere else and you may be an immigrant. But you don't have the right to voice your opinion about the history of a nation that you're not even a part of. We have allowed you through our laws and throughout our unit to come here and progress. And what you're progressing from is the history and the anchor of how this compound was built. And you say no one did anything for you. We are the reason why you can be on affirmative action. We are the reason why you can fall into harm's way and get on welfare. Or we are the reasons why you can come here and do things that you cannot do in your own homeland. So don't say you don't benefit from the history and the ingenuity of my ancestors. I am a native in this country. I've been here 1,600 years. Since the 1600s. Correction, since the 1600s. So we have to use our integrity groups and correct this situation and stop being like children and trying to put up a fight and going with the agenda against our own people in dignitary places like the Democratic Party. It's a deplorable mess. And I can't name them, and they don't have the honor of you because they have been practicing the ideology so long that you are just a voter and a taxpayer. The Democratic Party looks at its people as peons for so long and finessing its people to get votes and win votes, going in black churches in a place where you serve God in a docile environment where you are vulnerable to discuss politics. And then they get mad because you don't eat their food and you come back and eat their food, Bernie Sanders. And then that happens. And now you finesse the people and have no intent to correct them, no intent for their greater good, no intent for their lives at all. That's going to fall upon you and Joe Biden, writing the crime bill and not looking for people to be remembered or rectified or rehabilitated. And now you want to be president and CEO over these people in a sovereign nation, which they are important. This is what we're looking into now. So you don't get to go around and be disloyal to a people that support the very idea of your success as a dignitary. You don't get to do that. You don't get to do that. You don't get to do that. And you don't get to become rich as a person that came from hardship of being a slave descendant and tell everybody else, oh, you can do it. And haven't looked at the information and don't know politics. Politics is your life. And we have not been looking at that. And this is what time it is. It's time to look at politics. It's time to do politics. This is important. We understand now that we have failed in that area. And this is time to look at this. And it's time to correct it and make the people who are overseeing this, who are being paid with our tax dollars and who are being funded with our tax dollars and everything else, to look at this strategically and use a moral compass. The government needs some morality, and we'll have a morality. We're not worried. This will go forward. Well, you don't get to do that. So we are eager to continue on and excited about what we have come in contact with, and we take it very serious, and we understand what we're doing, and we understanding as we go forth. We have nothing else to lose, and that's what the president stated once before, and I remember he said it, and he was right. As a community, as a unit, he said it for a reason. The President Trump said that for a reason. When he said, blacks, what do you have to lose? He said that for a reason. That's because on the federal government website and on all the data, you are nothing and nobody. In terms of a important space in a union, in terms of America and how America truly exists, you're not even on the board. Barely on the board. And you should be. And this is not a fault of your own. This is organized by a power source that you have put into and your ancestors. So this has to be corrected. And we have to understand, and we have to get our people to understand this out there that are taking things personal. You can be constituted as someone who's no better than the people who were before you. That was slavery was unfortunate. Jim Crow was unfortunate. The burning down of Black Wall Street, the destroying of Rosewood and the stealing of Rosewood was unfortunate. Running black people off their land is unfortunate. Treating people like that, and then you are now in generational wealth and living wonderful lives and continue to have black people serving in these engines, these empires, working and getting degrees and constantly promoting the idea of you and your success for a paycheck, and don't have any anchor in this country of wealth. And that's how every group moves, except for the ones who built the country, blood sacrifice and backbreaking. That is not acceptable at all. So we move forward. We move forward, black people, and we move forward in the diaspora. And we move forward with transparent government, pulling politicians apart so that we see exactly what they're doing, asking the questions that need to be asked, and not being conditioned. We are reconditioning. Thank you for joining me, and cut the check.